Have you ever opened a book and felt like you were stepping into a whole new world? The Bible is a bit like that. It's not just one book but a big library of stories, poems, and letters. All these different parts come together to tell one big, beautiful story. It's a story about God and His incredible, never-stopping, never-giving up, always and forever love for His children. Yes, that means you. These stories are more than just old tales from long ago. They are like secret maps and love letters written especially for us, showing us the way to live and how much we are cherished. Reading these stories is like finding hidden treasure. They show us that no matter how small we feel or how big our problems seem, God has a plan. A wonderful plan filled with hope and adventure. The people in these stories were not perfect superheroes. They were ordinary people just like us. They made mistakes, they felt scared, and sometimes they even got lost, but through it all, God was with them. He was their guide, their helper, and their rescuer. Learning their stories helps us to see how God can work in our own lives, turning our messes into messages of His goodness. These ancient words are alive with meaning. They teach us how to be brave when we are afraid, how to be kind when others are not, and how to have faith even when we cannot see the path ahead. The stories whisper secrets about courage, forgiveness, and the amazing strength that comes from loving others. They are not just for learning in a quiet room. They are for carrying in our hearts every single day. They are stories that build us up, make us stronger, and fill our world with a special kind of light, a light that shines even in the darkest of places. So, let's open the pages together and journey back in time. Let's meet the heroes, the dreamers, and the brave adventurers who followed God. As we explore their tales, we will discover that this big story is also our story. It's a story we get to be a part of. It's an invitation to join the greatest adventure of all, an adventure where we learn that the most powerful thing in the whole wide world is not magic or might, but the simple, true, and unending love of God, the one who made everything and everyone. Once, a long, long time ago, the world had become a very noisy and unkind place. People had forgotten how to be good to each other and had stopped listening to God. But there was one man, named Noah, who still listened. His heart was full of love for God. So God came to Noah with a very big, very strange, and very important job. He said, "Noah, I'm going to wash the world clean with a great flood, but I want to save you and your family. I need you to build a giant boat, an ark." It was a rescue plan, a secret whispered from God's heart to Noah's. Noah trusted God, even when the plan sounded impossible. Imagine building a boat bigger than a house in the middle of dry land. Everyone else laughed at him. A boat with no water? "You're silly, Noah," they would say. But Noah kept on working, hammering and sawing day after day. He followed God's instructions perfectly. Then, God did something amazing. He sent 2 of every kind of animal, from the tall, graceful giraffes to the tiny, wiggling worms, to march right onto the ark. It was a parade of God's wonderful creation, all finding safety inside the boat Noah built. Then, the rain began to fall. It rained and rained for 40 days and 40 nights until the whole world was covered in a deep, quiet ocean. But inside the ark, Noah, his family, and all the animals were safe and dry, floating on the water. They were tucked in securely, just as God had promised. God was with them through the whole storm, keeping them safe in His care. He didn't forget about them for a single moment. He was their captain, steering them through the deep waters until the storm was over and the world was new and clean again. When the water finally went away, Noah and his family stepped out onto fresh, green land. The first thing they did was thank God for saving them. And God made a beautiful promise. He put a rainbow in the sky and said, "This is my promise to you and to the whole world. I will never again cover the earth with a flood." The rainbow is a reminder for us all. It reminds us that God always keeps His promises and that even after the biggest storms there is hope, new beginnings, and the colorful promise of His love. There was once a young shepherd boy named David. He wasn't a big, strong soldier. He was the youngest of his brothers, and his job was to watch over the fluffy, woolly sheep. He spent his days in the fields, playing his harp and singing songs to God. While his brothers went off to fight in the king's army, David stayed behind. But even though he was small, David had a very big and very brave heart. He knew that God was with him, protecting him from the lions and bears that tried to snatch his sheep. He practiced being courageous in the little things every single day. One day, a huge problem came to the army of Israel. It was a giant named Goliath. He was taller than any man and he wore heavy armor that clanked when he walked. Every morning and every evening Goliath would shout terrible things and dare anyone to fight him. All the strong soldiers were terrified. They hid in their tents, trembling with fear. No one was brave enough to face the giant. The whole army felt small and helpless because they were looking at how big the giant was, instead of remembering how big their God was. David came to the army camp to bring food for his brothers and heard the giant's scary words. But David wasn't afraid. He saw things differently. He said, "Who is this giant to stand against the army of the living God?" David knew that the battle was not his, but God's. He told the king he would fight Goliath. He didn't take the king's heavy armor or sword. Instead, he took what he knew, his simple shepherd's staff, a slingshot, and 5 smooth stones from a stream. He walked out to face the giant with nothing but his faith. Goliath laughed when he saw the small boy coming toward him. But David shouted, "You come to me with a sword and a spear, but I come to you in the name of the Lord Almighty." He put a stone in his sling, swung it around and let it fly. The little stone soared through the air and hit the giant right on the forehead, and the great big Goliath came crashing down. David showed everyone that it doesn't matter how small you are or how big your problems look. When you trust in God, He gives you the strength to face any giant in your life. Jesus loved to tell stories to help people understand God's heart. One day a man who was an expert in the rules asked Jesus, "What is the most important thing I must do?" Jesus told him to love God and to love his neighbor as much as he loved himself. But the man wanted to know more. "Who is my neighbor?" he asked. So Jesus told him a story. It was a story about a man who was traveling on a long, dusty road from Jerusalem to Jericho. It was a dangerous road, and suddenly, robbers jumped out and attacked him. The robbers took everything the man had, hurt him badly, and left him lying by the side of the road, all alone and in terrible pain. After a while, a priest came walking down the same road. The priest was a very important religious leader. When he saw the hurt man, he quickly crossed to the other side of the road and kept on walking. He didn't want to get involved. A little later, another religious man, a Levite, came by. He also saw the poor man lying there, but he too crossed the road and hurried away, leaving the man to suffer. Then someone else came along. He was a Samaritan. In those days, Jews and Samaritans were enemies. They did not like each other at all. But when this Samaritan man saw the hurt man, his heart was filled with pity. He didn't see an enemy. He saw a person who needed help. He knelt down beside him, gently cleaned his wounds with oil and wine, and bandaged them. He carefully lifted the man onto his own donkey and took him to a nearby inn to rest and get better. He didn't just help a little, he helped a lot. The next day, the Samaritan gave the innkeeper money and said, "Take care of him, and if it costs more, I will pay you back when I return." After telling the story, Jesus asked the expert, "Which of these 3 men was a neighbor to the man who was hurt?" The expert replied, "The one who showed him kindness." Jesus then said, "Go and do the same." This beautiful story teaches us that our neighbor is anyone who needs our help. It shows us that love isn't just a feeling, it's something we do. It's about showing kindness and compassion to everyone, no matter who they are.